Assalamualaikum and a very good day to all of the audience. My name is Hamidah Yusop. I am from Arshad Ayub Graduate Business School, Universiti Teknologi Mara, Malaysia. I'm going to present my research title of Pro-Environmental Behaviour, a Preliminary Qualitative Study of Organizational Policy. Pro-environmental behavior going forward will be addressed as PAB, referring to employees who contribute to environmental sustainability at the workplace unrewarded by the formal reward system, which will lead to organizational environmental performance. Several studies in the past has conceptualized PEB as an outcome of the implementation of organizational policies such as green HRM practices, implementation of the CSR activities. It is an added advantage for the organization to plan and to innovate strategy that integrate green agenda into their current business operation, which will create green jobs that consequently will shape employee behavior. Therefore, employees' PEB has been a concern, continuous concern when it comes to individual work behavior, since climate change is largely driven by human activities, including employees in organization. And the success of environmental initiatives and programs in organization are highly dependent on employees' behavior. Climate change, global warming are largely caused by greenhouse gas emissions. The study by the United States of Environmental Protection Agencies estimates that 39% of both US and global GHG emissions are caused by energy usage, such as electricity generation, heating, fuel transformation, and transportation. In Malaysia, we have 11th Malaysian Plan 2016 to 2020 that government utilized by integrating the economic growth of Malaysia together with the environmental consideration with an aim to reduce the GHG by 40% against our GDP. However, Malaysian ranking in World Environmental Index showcased a fall. For example, Malaysian ranking in the Global Green Environmental Index showcased that in 2014, Malaysian are placed in 35th places and fell to 35th places in 2018. Malaysian Global Competitiveness Index showcased a fall from 25th places in 2018 to 27 places in 2019. And a report by Malaysian Environmental Performance Index showcased a fall in ranking from 51 places in 2014 to 75 places in 2018. Although 13% of top 100 companies in Malaysia align their corporate responsibility reporting accordingly with the Sustainable Development Goals set up by the United Nations, only 5% of Malaysian companies state that their annual reports is integrated with the sustainable performance. Only 8% of the company have their sustainable report following the formal assurance of the statement, and only 3% of the companies in Malaysia acknowledge that climate change as a risk to their business, and only 10% of the companies report on their carbon reduction targets. Why this report is important? Because from this report, when annual report integrate with the sustainable performance report, it will help to disseminate information on the organization green initiative, green activities, and what are the outcomes from the implementation of the green activities toward the general public, towards the stakeholders. However, of all of these statistics and percentage, it demonstrated that Malaysia are still at the infancy stage in figuring out how to achieve the balance between socio-economic development and environmental preservation and the adoption of sustainable practices, as still far from what has been said by our government and also by the United Nations. In Malaysia, we have Green Technology Master Plan from 2017 to 2030 that focus on the 6 key sectors such as energy, manufacturing, transportation, building, waste and water. The progress of the GTMP heavily rely on the human capital that capable to innovate their act in each key sectors. A series of the initiative has also been put up in place to address the electricity generation and consumption on efficiency. However, the GHG in Malaysia increased by 30% since year 2000, and the energy sector is the biggest contributors of GHG by 44% in 2014. Industrial and commercial sector are amongst the highest sector in demand of power consumption, and which includes service sector such as financial institution. However, study by Asian Institute of Finance in Malaysia found out that only 39% of Malaysian financial institutions took the initiatives to reduce the energy consumption, and only 9% of the financial institutions have energy saving policies. Therefore, it is timely to explore the internal practices and operations of Malaysian FIs that enable them to make a sustainable impact on national development. Massa and T. Velde in 2011 claim or make a statement that DFI is able to mitigate the risk of climate change, the growing effects of the climate change, the financial crisis and global security through the establishment of micro framework that promotes energy efficiency in developing countries. However, up to this point, no exposure has been given to Malaysian DFIs. It requires not only the government to legislate and incentivize change, but also private sector and other stakeholders to carry this environmental responsibility. Therefore, the purpose of this study is to explore the status and predictors by exploring the organizational policy in Malaysian financial institution, which going forward will be addressed as FIs, and to suggest the conceptual framework to shape employees' PEB within the organizational and individual context. This study assumed that all organizations involved in this study possess available resources that allow them to utilize organizational policies into environmental practices, and to assess the status of green organizational policies and which policy motivate employees to act environmentally friendly based on HR professional perceptions. So, PEB are mostly depending on employees' voluntary act, but it is also imperative to integrate voluntary act with the task related, which is what has been set up by the organization in the employee's job description. But what is apparent is whether the employee's PEB might or might not influenced by organizational factors such as GHRM practices. Thus, further analysis are needed to explore which GHRM practices that might translate into employee PEB. Green HRM implementation is meant to create, enhance and retain green insight from each employee to maximize green contribution. It is widely known that green human resource help to enhance employee PEB, attitudes and capabilities, motivate employees to think and act ecologically, and provide employees with the opportunities to develop skills and knowledge associated with the environmental sustainability. So this study focused on the private sector only, which is FIs, which consists of 6 Malaysian DFIs. The participant will be the HR managers or HR professionals, and this study is a qualitative in nature by using open-ended questions through interview session via Google Meet, which is face-to-face. And also the data collected will be analyzed using thematic analysis, where the researcher will come out with the themes later. So the population will be the Malaysian financial services industry with the accessible population to employees of 6 Malaysian DFIs, and the targeted sample is the 6 HR managers. Since no sampling frame were able to obtain for this study, so this study will employ non-probability sampling technique, which is purposive sampling. So from the data collection, the analysis, the findings is not for generalization beyond the set targeted sample. So the data collection went through 2 stages, which is the first one, archival research. The second one is the interview stage. In the archival stage, researcher retrieve the article journal for the past 10 years from 2010 to 2020 using search engines such as Web of Science, ProQuest, Gesto, and Google Scholar. Using the keywords such as GHRM, GHRM with environmental management performance, environmental behavior, or GHRM and sustainable development. And from this article journal, researcher will map out the most common green HRM practices to formulate the interview question, which will utilize within the interview session. In stage 2, the interview session specifically to explore the two objectives, which is what are the status of GHRM practices and what are the key factors that may further encourage employees to adopt PEB. From the data collected, we managed to come up with the 9 distinct themes. Seven themes were green HRM practices, and another 2 are on employee PEB and the climate change respectively. As you can see here, only 4 organizations were involved in the data analysis. Organization 5 and 6 were excluded due to the participants are not able to involve due to the time constraint. So the data analysis are only on the 4 organizations. As you can see here in the table, all of the organizations do not have green element in their job design, in their performance management, in their green label. And some of the organizations have some green element on the recruitment and selection, training and development, compensation management, and health and safety. So from this study, we found that 4 organizations involved did not apply all 7 GHRM practices as the formal practices in their company, as suggested by Said et al. 2019, Dumont et al. 2017, and Fawahini et al. 2020 that come up with this finding that GHRM are able to influence employee PEB at the workplace either directly or indirectly. For the team A, the data collected by asking the participant on their point of view on which GHRM practices will likely to motivate employee PEB, and they agreed that green health and safety, green training development, and green performance management will influence employee PEB, and they all agreed that employee PEB will have a positive impact towards the initiative to mitigate the climate change. So from the findings, this study come up with a conceptual framework that will serve as a guideline for future researcher organization to formulate framework for further study. For example, in these conceptual frameworks, we include green performance management, green training, and green health and safety will shape employee PEB that will somehow help to mitigate the climate change. So the contribution of this study to the body of knowledge and to organization is for the researcher to understand whether organizational policy will influence employee PEB at the workplace, and for future researcher to fill the gap of the study through conducting an in-depth study by integrating an appropriate variable or to include all the 7 GHRM practices to measure employee PEB at the workplace. And it is also will help to assist organization to set up policies or business practices framework to encourage employees PEB and to assist management of DFIs to strategize implementation of green initiatives, specifically through GHRM practices to encourage employee PEB at the workplace. That's all from me. Thank you and have a good weekend.